if you already struggle in a certain way on a mental or somatic level. There's this fear here, but there's this beautiful power that can be unleashed if we own it, if we pair human power, the infinite nature of human power with the infinite nature of the technological world, but determine their relationship. Hi, everyone. I'm Libby. I've been offline for about 4 years. I had a lot of consternation about coming back online. I have loved traveling. I've loved being separate from notifications. I intentionally got off Instagram before going on my initial travel in 2017 to Asia, because I had noticed when I was in Central America earlier that year that just by being online during my trip, it began to taint the experiences I was having. I would actually seek out Instagram worthy moments rather than be in the moment that is. I wanted to start to experience things just as it was without anyone else's opinion on it. And I expected that would last about 2 or 3 months. I also anticipated that my trip would be about 2 or 3 months. And immediately I started meeting people who'd been on the road for about 8 to 9 months. And one of them was a deaf woman from Eastern Europe. The level of energy these people would have after being on the road for 8, 9 months was intoxicating. And especially meeting this deaf woman already as a single woman traveling, there's this fear or even kind of stigma with it. And seeing her and listening to her speak, it just blew my mind about what's actually possible. I had like a nicer camera at the time. And so I'd make these Facebook albums and I'd post them. And it was really fun to actually kind of curate something in a world where we post things instantaneously. It was so powerful to really, let me grab water. This is the online shit I don't like. And then it never made sense to come back online. Actually, after my brother passed, I got this flavor in my mouth that life is short and I want to put myself out there. But the problem was the connection that you're making online is really unsustainable. And so while it was great to get some solidarity, and I also felt the reaction of people who were picking up on some of the biggest parts of who I am. There was someone who sent me a video of them doing a backflip on a trampoline, and they were like, I just went for it today. And this is a small thing, but it also meant so fucking much to me, because the point of my life is to push on my own boundaries. And so watching that effect actually go out was so gorgeous. But at the same time, I just could not sustain my own mental health. And people communicating with me in a virtual environment were also not going to be able to do that for me. I chose to entirely get off the digital space at the time I financially went broke. It was the Christmas after my brother's death, and there was a real feeling of like, if this is all that life is, then I would prefer to not be a part of it. And also, if he already got out, right, that's how I kind of saw it. He freed himself from this, and I felt like I could already see the ending of everything. And if I could already see the ending, what was the point of still being here? I didn't know what I wanted to work for, and a lot else was just in my face. These things I laugh because it is infuriating and scary. It's sticky. I also got permission from my coach at this time. I could have given it to myself, but I didn't really have that in me to just stop talking to people. And I sent a message out to a whole bunch of friends, and I was like, I'm getting offline and I won't be reachable by phone. And it was one of the freest messages that I had sent. One of my sisters was like, do you really need to send that? And I was like, yeah, I do. Because in the digital age, like the expectation to be online and to respond back is so large, and you don't want people to totally worry about you. And again, I thought this would last. So now this was already like 2 years after I'd gotten off social media, but now it was, okay, again, I thought this was going to be like 2 or 3 months, and I'm on year 3. That was 2020. COVID hit after that. What I gained from about 6 years of being offline, for the most part, was a bunch of shit that I can't summarize in this video. But the first part was the space to actually listen to what's going on in my system. And the other part is an actual sense of longevity with my own mind. So I noticed this immediately when I gave up social media when I was traveling, like, especially when I would go into a place that didn't have a lot of Wi-Fi access and or service, and I wouldn't use my phone or open my phone. I felt like the amount of space that I had to think ahead, like, doubled, quadrupled for every hour more that I did it, or for every day more that I did it. My capacity to start thinking long term really grew. And my goals were always like 2 to 3 months, or maybe 5 to 6 months in the future. In South Africa, which was month 8 or so of my journey, hitting a place where I was like, wow, I'm really starting to think about 5-year goals. And I thought that was a big deal. Eventually started thinking on 1,000-year time span as one of the frameworks that I engage with offered. I also think in a 500,000-year time span. So that's, that's completely on you to determine like what level of time span thinking gives you ease or gives you anxiety. But the point is, even going from a time span where you're thinking about 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 seconds down the line to thinking 24 hours in advance can be big. And I think this is one of the things that's been so jeopardized that we in our generation don't think about. Now, at the same time, it doesn't mirror the social reality that as a young person, like, it's incredibly difficult to not have social media. It doesn't really answer the questions about how to be mindful on social media. It also doesn't really answer the questions about our relationship between addiction and social media, and how the online world can become an accelerator of everything that we already struggle with. So here's kind of the crux of what I'm getting at. There's an extraordinary power that's yet to be unleashed when we as humans learn what role our mind has in our lives, period, which is being developed and understood more and more in the world of neuroscience, in the world of spirituality, every single year. There's an extraordinary amount of power to be had when we can both start to uncover that, as well as, this is the part that has to be our choice. We choose where we want, how we want technology to be a part of our lives. And then, of course, there's the reality that how much technology is a part of our lives is not a personal choice. It's also a social choice. When you work at a job and they require you to download Slack and download email and be engaged in these kinds of ways, you also can't remove yourself from it. You can't choose the way in which Instagram and Facebook and TikTok have chosen to design their platforms and what they've chosen to put on the forefront. And you can't possibly prepare for the effect that's going to have if you already struggle in a certain way on a mental or somatic level. So overall, there's this fear here, but there's this beautiful power that can be unleashed if we own it, if we pair human power, the infinite nature of human power with the infinite nature of the technological world, but determine their relationship. I guess finally I'll just say, like, I'm so far from free of this. Me trying to work it out all on my own is at times just distancing myself from myself, because I'm getting caught in a narrative that I alone should be the one to free myself. And we already know this with tools of oppression, that's one of the most destructive powers of the oppression, is to keep people separate from each other and make them believe they can get out of it on their own. So we can be each other's helpers. We can create a network together, those of us who want to be more conscious about this. We can help make it easier for others to get more conscious and start to form that net and that mindfulness. And that mindfulness is not just about reducing the amount of technology we use or limiting or managing it. It's about tapping into the technology and the power in our own body, in our own psyche, in our own level of consciousness, which is always personal and collective, and learning about and accelerating that. An ideology or philosophy that's based solely on the reduction of something will always lock us into that thing. We get to look to what can be.